What I want to be able to do is not necessarily cross-fade between these movies when they loop, but in this video player, I'm going to make a system so that we can load in new movies into it, and instead of just popping on, it will elegantly cross-fade from what was, previously playing. So the first thing I'm going to do to achieve this is make a couple of DACs. I'm going to get rid of this control thing because I don't think we'll actually get to do anything interesting with it. I'm also going to get rid of all these nulls because I hate them. Butcher. The first table I'm going to make is going to be called Media Path, wherein I will stick the path to the movies that I am going to deal with. Actually, I'm going to back up. I'm not going to do it that way, even though this is a method. I'm going to make a variable. I'm going to make a text box and use a command in this text box, a script command called cbar. This is going to make a component variable for myself. I'm going to name that component variable media path. And I'm going to set it equal to the path to these movies that we've been playing in the video players. So I'm just going to go into movie in. Slow down. All right. Down a little bit. Text box.
So yeah, it's a data and it's called text. What Baron is doing is creating a script. So cbar is a command. We talked about commands earlier. And go ahead.
Yeah, so this is a command to set a variable. And this particular variable setting command is for a component variable, which is a variable that I can access within this this component.
Is the white space important?
Yes.
This white space is indeed important. So cbar media path equals, and I don't know what it equals right now, but I'm going to go into my video player where we've preset, with that plus sign or movie path. And I'm just going to grab that, boom, go back out, paste it in there. And then I'm going to take out the actual movie name because I just want the directory purposes right now.
And in closing,
You've got a space.
Yeah, I'm going to have to just close right now. I'm going to put quotes around that because I have a space in it. Your mileage may vary on that.
sorry, where'd you get that path?
I got that path from the file parameter of the movie in top where I had previously just loaded a movie. And I just know that there are 3 movies in that directory that we've been using to load, so I'm just going to grab that path.
This is the path that you got rid of the file name.
I got rid of the movie name in the
Can you zoom into it?
in the text. Yep. Like Star Wars style. And so then at that point what I'm going to do is right click on the viewer active plus sign and click run script. And when I run that script, what I'll get is a new box called local will magically appear in a conveniently central location. You can see the variable set here in this local box. What you're seeing in the opt viewer screen is the table that lists all of my variables that are set. If I were to enter the local component, I would see 2 boxes called set variables and variables. If I put the viewer on each of those, you can see one editable screen where I could even go in and define new variables in this manner. If I were to take a variable named Splunky and call that 3, then lo and behold, I've set a new component variable without actually having to script anything. This gets even more flexible in that I can put more, I could add more variables in here, and anything that winds up in this final table I can access, with a $sign variable command in any of my scripts. So that's kind of how that works under the hood. One of the things that I tend to do normally is go into this operator viewer parameter of local and just change this to set variables so that I can just edit them in here. But that's just a personal kind of preference. So now that I have my media path variable that shows my folder, I'm going to make, I can get rid of this script at this point because I'm done with it. All I used it to do is set that initial variable and make the local box appear in this component. So I'm going to delete that and make a table. And I'm going to call this table movies 1 and make this viewer active and add, by right-clicking on the table and saying add below, I'm going to add 2 more rows. And in these 3 rows, I'm going to put the names of my movies, which I'm going to get from that directory, which is desktop MUTEK Touch Designer. It's open. Oh, there it is. Great. In a ideal world, I would have a nice script that would come and fill this table for me by searching the directory for movies, but we're not going to do that. I'm just literally going to take my names here and copy and paste them into this table in the interest of time and space. So if your viewer is active on your table, so if you click the plus sign and then right click on the table and say add below, you're going to add a new row below. So then we got 3 rows. Oops. Where's my row? There it is. This guy. Paste. Natural Wonders, and this guy is our orchard, which is our favorite, really. But so now I have a movie.
One of the commands in Touch Designer is called System, and it allows you to execute any command of the operating system. So if you were to open up the DOS command directory, so you can list directories, and the output of that can be assigned into a variable, you can put it into a table, and process it after the fact. So it's pretty powerful. The next version is going to have Python in it also, so then you would have all the different file operating system tools available in Python also.
So the next thing I'm going to do is make a select dat. Connect up the movies 1 table to it. You'll see everything in there since I'm currently selecting everything. But in the parameters for the select dat, I want to extract only certain rows. So in the extract rows parameter, I'm going to go and say by index. And I want my start row index to be, this is the thing that we'll select to change it. But I want my start row and end row index to actually be the same thing in this case, because what I'm wanting to do is have a number which will select my movie name, which will then be loaded. So if I click on end row index, you see the expression that's actually generating that number, which is number of rows minus 1. And I'm going to change this to be actually the easiest way, I'll do it the easy way, which is you just drag this thing in there and say current, relative channel reference. And then that will put a parameter expression into that row. So it's just grabbing the value from start row index and using it as the value for end row index. So they're both the same. So now if I change start row index, I'm going to see the new movie. And that only leaves us with one final step to make that play, although there'll be some more to do to get it across page.
Can you do that step again? What did you do?
Absolutely. It starts out like something of this nature, where my in-row index is set by the number of rows in my table minus 1. And all I'm going to do is get rid of that, delete it, grab the name start row index, drag it down to the in-row index box, let go, boom, I get this menu, and I want to say relative channel reference in this case. And then it just builds out. You could also just, if you know that the par expression is what you want, you could just type that in with the select one rows index start parameter, which you get by hovering over the parameter name. That's how I reference that parameter inside of the select that. Okay. So at this point, the only thing left for me to do here is to reference that selected movie name inside of the movie in top, which I have created in my video player one there. So if for a moment we ignore our two movie player matters, what we can do is go into this file parameter and stick in the variables, the variable that we've created, and the we should do those both as variables instead of a tab expression, I think. No, we'll need a tab expression, which is fun. So the first thing I'll want in my file path is the media path variable that we created, which is actually going to be the folder to the movie. I don't remember if I included it earlier. I did. So you see, if I hover over file after putting that variable in, it's evaluated it, and there's the path that we so presciently created earlier. For the second path, what I want is this movie name, and the way I'm going to reference that in this case is with an expression called the tab expression. To evaluate this, I will need backticks, which are the same key as the tilde on the upper left-hand portion of your standard US 104 key keyboard. So I'll stick in my back quote, and then, if we were doing this on our own without expert guidance, I could open my text port by saying Alt-T and think, I wonder what the things that start with tab may or may not be, because tables are what I'm dealing with, and say, X-help tab. Indeed, there is a expression called tab, but we also see some see alsos down there that show more related things, so it's a good way to kind of search around. So my tab expression, it turns out, takes 3 arguments. The first is the path for the table, and the second and third are the row and column number referenced from 0 going into that table. Luckily, I've created a table with my select that only has 1 row and column, so it's going to be easy to reference. So if I go into my file parameter, and in that backtick I type tab for the table expression, the path to the table that I want, which is going to be up a directory, and it was called, I think it's select 1. That says, don't worry about this text box, I'm just copying this so we can see it.
So path always has to be in quotes.
The path is going to be in quotes, yes. It's a string, so you're going to have quotes. And then after that, I'm going to have a comma. I'm going to say 0, which is my row. I'm going to have a comma. I'm going to say 0, which is my column. I'm going to close that off with a parenthesis and backtick it again. And so that's going to be my whole line for what goes in that file tab, which is the variable for our path, and then the selected movie name from that table. So if I take that bad boy, and put it to work, what I'll have is Boosh. Not our favorite movie, but yet a movie none the same. Golden Harvest.
Your expression will work.
This is a very syntactically exact science that we're dealing with there.
The reason why there's no spaces is because it's basically an implicit string concatenation. There actually is an expression called stopgap, which allows you to establish a method with two arguments. But in this case, $media path is a variable, so it's being evaluated by the expression interpreter media path. And the backtick means that it needs to treat the tab parentheses thing as an expression, not as a string literal. So touch is evaluated. So what you end up with is two strings that are being concatenated. And $media path ends with a forward slash. So the last part is just the line.
So you
could. It could be $media path and $file name. And there could be a script somewhere that sets a variable. Yeah, that's a good thing to point out. I think if you mouse over the word file, it's going to show you how that whole string is being evaluated. So you can see there, it's actually interesting because the actual string and the variable for media path originally when $desktop, that was even evaluated to be the full path. So touch will constantly be evaluated. But if you have a problem with it, you can always evaluate what's going on by just hovering over parameters.
You could, I could do this another way. I could have in this tab expression said, instead of select one, I could have said potentially movies one, right? And then gave the row, my row index could have been the.
And that could be a chop expression there, that could be a variable.
You can rapidly change these.
Yeah.
Run through it.